What is going on, Pretender here, back with another Honkai style guide, and today I'm here with the full in-game guide for Castorice. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you over her kin eidolons, then I'll be taking you over her best lightcone options, followed by that will be best relic sets and planar ornaments, and then at the end of that will be relic mainstat and substat recommendations. And at the very end of this video, I'll be giving you some team ideas / team building options to give you a general idea on what you do want to run with her. This video has time codes, so if you need a specific section such as the lightcones, relic set specifically, everything is timestamped. You can skip to what you do need. And that's all I wanted to say. Before I get to the video, if you guys found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of style content and guides. If you know anyone that may need a Castorice guide, be sure to send them this video as it may help them, and let's get straight into the video. So starting it all off, first we're going to go over Castorice's kit. I'll be reading it out, including her kit and also her memo sprite details. I also will be putting it on screen so you yourself can read it at the same time if you do want to. So Castorice is a quantum character following the path of remembrance. Basic attack deals quantum damage equal to 50% of Castorice's max HP to one designated enemy. Her skill consumes 30% of all allies' current HP and deals quantum damage equal to 50% of Castorice's max HP to one designated enemy, and quantum damage equal to 30% of Castorice's max HP to adjacent targets. If current HP is insufficient, reduces the current HP down to 1. And if Netherwing is on the battlefield, the skill becomes Boneclaw, Doomdrake's Embrace instead. Her ultimate summons the Memo Sprite Netherwing and advances its action by 100%. At the same time, deploys the territory in Lost Netherland, which decreases all enemies all type res by 20%. If Castorice has the damage boost effect from her talent, then this effect spreads to Netherwing. Netherwing has an initial speed of 165 and has a set max HP equal to 100% of max Newbud. After Netherwing experiences 3 turns or when its HP is 0, it will disappear and dispel the territory in Lost Netherland. And as the skill did previously state, if you do have the Netherwing on the field, it does enhance the skill. And what the enhanced skill does is consumes 40% of the current HP of all allies except Netherwing. Castorice and Netherwing launch a joint attack on the targets, dealing quantum damage equal to 30% and 50% of Castorice's max HP to all enemies. Her talent, the maximum limit of Newbud is related to the levels of all characters on the battlefield. For every 1 point of HP lost by all allies, Castorice gains 1 point of Newbud. When Newbud reaches its maximum limit, can activate the ultimate. When allies lose HP, Castorice's and Netherwing's damage dealt increases by 20% that stacks up to 3 times and lasts for 3 turns. When Netherwing is on the field, Newbud cannot be gained through the talent, and HP lost by all allies except Netherwing will be converted to an equal amount of HP for Netherwing. Her technique, after using technique, enters the Netherville state that lasts for 20 seconds. While Netherville is active, enemies are unable to actively approach Castorice. During Netherville, active attacks will cause all enemies within range to enter combat. At the same time, summons the Memo Sprite Netherwing and advances its action by 100% and deploys the territory. Netherwing has its current HP equal to 50% of max Newbud. After entering battle, consumes 40% of the current HP of all allies except Netherwing. If Netherwing is not summoned after entering battle, Castorice gains Newbud by an amount equal to 30% of max Newbud. And for Castorice's unique global passive, after obtaining Castorice or when Castorice is on the current team, receive the following effect. In battle, when an ally character receives a killing blow, all ally characters that received a killing blow in that action enter the Moon Cocoon state. Characters in Moon Cocoon temporary delay becoming downed and can take actions normally. After the action and before the start of the next turn, if their current HP increases or they gain a shield, Moon Cocoon is removed. Otherwise, they will be downed immediately and can only trigger once per battle. Now for the skills of the actual Memo Sprite, the little slash it can do will deal quantum damage equal to 40% of Castorice's max HP to all enemies. Its main skill, Breath Scorches the Shadow. Launching it will consume 25% of Netherwing's max HP to deal quantum damage equal to 24% of Castorice's max HP to all enemies. In one attack, Breath Scorches the Shadow can be launched repeatedly with the damage multiplier increased progressively to 28%/34%. After it reaches 34%, it will not increase further. The damage multiplier boost effect will not decrease before Netherwing disappears. When Netherwing's current HP is equal to or less than 25% of its max HP, launching the ability will actively reduce the HP down to 1, and then trigger the ability effect equal to that of the talent Wing Sweeps the Runes. And what Wing Sweeps the Runes does is consumes all HP and deals 6 instances of damage, with each instance dealing quantum damage equal to 40% of Castorice's max HP to one random enemy. At the same time, restores HP by an amount equal to 6% of Castorice's max HP plus 800 for all allies. Memo Sprite's talent is when Netherwing is on the field, it acts as a backup for allies. When allies take damage or consume HP, their current HP can be reduced to a minimum of 1, after which Netherwing will consume HP at 500% of the original value until Netherwing disappears. And the extra support, when Netherwing is summoned, increases damage dealt by all allies by 10% for 3 turns. For Castorice's bonus traces, her A2, after allied targets excluding Netherwing receive healing, converts 100% of the healed amount into new blood. If Netherwing is on the field, this is converted to Netherwing's HP instead. Each allied target can accumulate a conversion amount up to 12% of max new blood. After any unit takes action, all units reset their accumulated conversion amount. For A4, when Castorice's current HP is higher than or equal to 50% of her max HP, her speed increases by 40%. When Netherwing uses Breath Scorches the Shadow and deals fatal damage to all enemies on the field or brings them to a point where their HP cannot be reduced any further, Netherwing's speed increases by 100% for one turn. And her A6, each time Netherwing uses Breath Scorches the Shadow, the damage dealt increases by 30% and stacks up to 6 times and lasts until the end of the turn. For her eidolons, her E1, when the enemy target's current HP is 80%/50% of max HP or lower, the damage dealt to it by Bone Cloud, Doom Drake's Embrace, Claw Splits the Veil, and Breath Scorches the Shadow, and Wing Sweep the Ruins, is 120%/140% of the original damage respectively. For E2, after summoning the Memo Sprite Netherwing, casters gain 2 stacks of Ardent Will. Ardent Will can stack up to 2 times and can be used to offset the HP cost of Netherwing's Memo Sprite skill. Breath Scorches the Shadow and advances Castorice's action by 100%. When using the next enhanced skill, Castorice gains new blood by an amount equal to 30% of max new blood. For E4, while Castorice is on the field, all allies' incoming healing during HP restoration increases by 20%. And our E6, when Castorice or Netherwing deals damage, increases Quantum Res Pen by 20%. During Netherwing's attacks, can reduce enemy toughness regardless of weakness type. When breaking weaknesses, triggers the Quantum Weakness Break effect. And the number of bounces for the Netherwing's talent Wing Sweeps the Ruins additionally increases by 3. Taking a look at the best Lightcone options for Castorice, unfortunately she really is working with practically only 2 options as we do have currently in the game as of the 3.2 update. Her best one is obviously going to be her own signature Lightcone, which does provide the wearer a 30% increase to max HP. When the wearer or their Memo Sprite loses HP during their own turn, the wearer gains Death Flower. Death Flower allows the wearer and their Memo Sprite to ignore 30% of the target's defense when dealing damage for 2 turns. When the wearer's Memo Sprite disappears, advances the wearer's action by 12%, and the effect can trigger up to 1 time, and the trigger count will reset every time the wearer uses ultimate. So Castorice is a HP scaling character, so a big 30% increase to max HP is going to be really good starting off. On top of that, she does drain everyone's HP, which does include herself, and Memo Sprite also does lose HP, so you're practically always going to be able to have the big 30% defense ignore, which is a very high value on its own, which makes it super effective. And when you do pair this with other sources of defense ignore, it becomes a lot stronger. And as the actual Memo Sprite does self-destruct, and so it will disappear quite often, you can very frequently see the 12% wearer advance forward. So that's going to allow you to get more turns faster, accelerate the HP drain, and also accelerate rotations on your ultimate. Everything this Lightcone provides is super perfect for Castorice, which is why it's far and none her best option. The only other actual option that is effective is going to be the Sweat Now Cry Less Battle Pass Lightcone, which gives the wearer 12% crit rate. When the wearer's Memo Sprite is on the field, increases the damage dealt by the wearer and their Memo Sprite by 24%, and at S5 it is a 20% increase to crit rate and a 36% increase for the damage dealt by the wearer and their Memo Sprite. This is not giving you HP or crit damage, which is more preferable since Castorice already has a bunch of sources of crit rate, but it still can be definitely very helpful. Just be sure you do not go ahead and overcap. On top of that, this is the other Lightcone that is going to be affecting both Castorice and the Memo Sprite quite well with the damage dealt. And it's really only the option she can use, as it is just for whenever the actual Memo Sprite is on the field. So anytime you summon it or when you go into battle with the technique, you are going to have that effect active and be able to make full use of this Lightcone, making it her other best option you can use, which is again the only other option that is available. As mentioned, those 2 are really the only 2 options you can use, since every other one does not really provide an effect that is useful or does not fully work on her. The next best option is to take the Lightcone you have that has the highest base HP and actually give it to your Castorice. You will not receive the effect of the Lightcone, as it will be a different path, but I will put up the Lightcones with the highest base effects. So with 5 stars, it are these. A lot of limited, so if you have a spare one for some reason or you're not using it, you can't throw it on her, or some one of the standard ones, they're optional. And for 4 stars, there are the ones right here. So these are the only options you have until we do finally get a free-to-play Remembrance one or a summonable Remembrance one that is going to be workable with Castorice. But unfortunately, if you do not have the Battle Pass one, or you don't have her signature especially, you will have to use the one with the highest base HP. When it comes to the best relic sets for Castorice, unfortunately she really only is working with one option you want to do for a 4-piece, which is also her far and none best in slot option, and that goes to none other than the 4-piece of the Poet set. 4-piece of the Poet set is practically the only other set that does actually work with the Memo Sprite, And since Castorice herself is not the one mainly doing the damage, it is mainly her summon, which is her Memo Sprite, that is doing the primary damage and is most of the damage throughout her entire kit. This is one of the only relic sets that actually will buff it. So the 2-piece gives 10% quantum damage, which she does deal quantum damage, so that is beneficial. And the 4-piece decreases the wearer's speed by 8%. Before entering battle, if the wearer's speed is lower than 110/95, increases the wearer's crit rate by 20%/32%, and also applies to the wearer's Memo Sprite at the same time. Castorice is practically always going to be built with very low speed. You don't want to get relic rolls with speed, just so you can actually have below 95 going into battle. And so once you do go into battle, you get a free 32% crit rate, which is a very big increase to crit rate. Combine this with other sources she has, such as her traces, some of her teammates that are also going to be buffing crit rate, and you don't really have a need to get too much crit rate on your rolls, which is why it's going to allow you to allocate a lot more to HP percent and crit damage especially. So it's going to be great for your build. And also this is, as it does say, applies to the wearer's Memo Sprite at the same time. So you are also giving that effect to your Memo Sprite, which is why it's so good. And then again, as I mentioned, she deals quantum damage because that is her element, so the 2-piece is also very much helping her. And so with all these things in mind, 4-piece of the Poet set is practically the only 4-piece you want to do and is the best relic set you could possibly get for her. If you're not able to do 4-piece Poet set just yet, then you can combine 2-piece, and that mainly comes to combining stuff like 2-piece of the Scholar set for the actual crit rate it gives, and also combining that with 2-piece of like the max HP set. As the 2-piece does give you 12% max HP, and Castorice does scale up HP, and so the extra max HP is going to be great. Or you could also take 2-piece of either or. Max HP set is the one I recommend the most just because it's the one that will benefit you the most. So you can take either ones I just mentioned and also do 2-piece of one of the quantum damage sets. So 2-piece Poet is the same as also the 2-piece of the Genius set. You can also do that. And that unfortunately is practically all you're working with. So again, I really recommend just getting 4-piece Poet set as it's her far and the best option. Even if your set isn't the greatest, it's going to be the one that benefits you the most, as it's also buffing the Memo Sprite at the same time. If not that, again, you could just do 2-piece of the max HP set with 2-piece Scholar, or 2-piece of one of those with 2-piece Poet or 2-piece Genius for the quantum damage increase. For Planar Ornaments, there's also not too many options, but her best in slot is going to be the Bone set, which gives 12% max HP, and when the wearer's max HP is 5,000 or higher, increases the wearer's and their Memo Sprite's crit damage by 28%. So a free 12% increase to max HP is really good, and having 5,000 or higher max HP, which you will on a proper build Castorice, gives 28% crit damage for free for both Castorice herself and her summon. And as I mentioned, summon definitely wants to actually have an increase to its stats, so whatever you can actually increase that also applies to the Memo Sprite is going to be very beneficial. And so this giving free max HP and also a free 28% crit damage for both Castorice and the Memo Sprite is why it is the best in slot you can use. If you can't use that or you're still farming for it, you can also use Ban and Amusement. It's not as good, but it gives a 16% crit damage increase for free. When a target summoned by the wearer is on the field, crit damage additionally increases by 32%. So free 16%, and if you do actually have the Memo Sprite summoned, so going into the battle with the technique, or once you recasted the ultimate during the battle, that goes up by an additional 32%, giving you up to a total of 48% crit damage for free. Not really much to talk about there, just a crit damage increase. Bone is still better by a good chunk. But if you happen to have Ban and Amusement pieces that you just have saved and you're still farming for bone pieces, you can safely use this, as this still will do fine. Those are practically the only two you do want to go for actually using for her damage. Bone set primarily because again it's her best in slot. Ban and Amusement is just the one you do use if you're, still farming for bone. But if you don't have either of those and you're still farming for bone, if you're really desperate, you can just use Ageless, just because it has a 12% increase to max HP. The last part, 120 speed or higher, all allies attack increases, you can ignore that, it's just whatever. It's solely for the fact that it gives 12% max HP. You want to replace this ASAP just because bone does the exact same thing and also gives you the free 28% crit damage, which makes it significantly better. But if you really have no bone pieces laying around that are even decent, or Ban and Amusement, and you just happen to have decent and usable Fleet of the Ages pieces, you can just use that over these until you get one of the options. Or the main stats on the relics. For the body, you practically always will be using crit damage over crit rate just because Castorice has so many sources of crit rate, such as her traces, especially the Poet set. Some of her best teammates give crit rate as well. There's so many ways that you can actually get crit rate to where you don't even need too many rolls on your relics. They're so nice to have, but she has way more accessibility to actual crit rate than crit damage, so crit damage body is usually always going to be the one you do use. But if you happen to have so much crit damage rolls already, you can actually use crit rate. Just be sure you don't overcap because you really don't want to overcap crit rate. But if you don't have an actual crit piece, you can actually use HP percent. That is still fine. You just want to make sure you are able to balance a good crit ratio. But using an HP body is going to make it to where either your crit rate or crit damage is going to be too low. Probably crit damage in the sense because that's the most common one. So crit damage is usually always going to be the best option you can use. For the feat, you want HP percent. For the orb, you can use HP percent or quantum damage. HP percent is a bit better, but you still can use quantum damage. If you have a really good quantum orb, you can use it, no problem. HP percent is going to be better, but again, you still can use quantum. And for the link rope, you want HP percent. For the substat priority, practically is your generic DPS, so crit rate, crit damage, mainly crit damage, and then also HP percent instead of attack, because she doesn't scale up attack, she's an HP scaler. So HP instead of attack in that sense. So crit damage mainly because she's already going to have enough crit rate for the most part, but you still can get some crit rate rolls as they will help. And then more HP percent will be great. So once again, crit damage primarily, crit rate because some rolls will be helpful, and then HP percent. Just be sure if you are running Poet, which you really should, to avoid getting any speed just because you don't want to actually go above 95. So make sure once you do have your full set done, be sure you have less than 95 speed. Now for the team building / team idea section of this video. So starting it off, obviously you do have your Castorice as your main DPS. One of her and practically her best team is going to be focusing her as a hyper carry character. The best possible Castorice team you can really do right now is Tribi, as Tribi is far and none the best support with Castorice. Another fantastic and the other best option is actually going to be the RMC. So using the RMC is going to be very much preferred. These are the two kind of best supports she does have at the moment. And then the last slot will definitely be your sustain slot. So here just use whatever you have that is the best for you. Personally, I'm going to be using Luocha if I can find them. Luocha is fantastic, but another fantastic, which is practically tied, or if not a bit better in some cases, is actually going to be Gallagher. If you have a well-built Gallagher that is free to use, you can use Gallagher. If you don't have either of those, like you don't have Gallagher built and you don't have Luocha, but you have Linksha, you can use Linksha as well. She works fantastic. And the other healers usually will not heal too much enough. Like Fofo does work, she can be fine, but it's not as good as the other three. Those other three are definitely the ones you want to be preferred running, as she won't be as good as them. But you just have to use whatever you have as the best sustain. So if your best sustain is Myler or Lynx, you'll probably struggle a bit when it comes to the HP drain and being CC'd and such, but you'll have to make do. But obviously, Luocha is one of the best. The other best would be Gallagher. If not either of those, Linksha is also very good. So again, that would be the thing. RMC is free, so you're practically going to always be able to slot them in. But another character, you can really just like replace one of these. So if you don't have one of them, you can just like throw on instead Sunday. The issue with Sunday is his ultimate does not actually stay on the Memo Sprite, and so it does not really work properly with that. So with the way his ultimate works and the way Castorice is played, the ultimate is not actually able to stay up on it. You still can have times where it works, but it's not always going to work. If you have an E1 Sunday, then he's a lot more broken to use with Castorice thanks to the defense ignore, since the skill has no issue, but rather the actual ultimate. So he is an option you can use, but if you don't want to use Sunday and you don't really want to deal with that, you can also use someone like Ruan Mei. I can't find her. Ruan Mei right here. Ruan Mei is also great with her with the damage dealt buffs and everything she does provide. She works great. You can take her off instead and use one of the other action forward giving characters like Bronya. You could also use Sparkle, which I also can't find. One of those two also do work. Just be sure you actually action advance the summon and not Castorice, because if you action advance the summon over Castorice, the summon is getting the buff and that's her main source of damage. If you do it to Castorice, Castorice gets the buff, the summon doesn't, the summon won't do as much damage. So if you use one of these two, be sure you actually action advance the summon. So those are what you're working with, but you know, obviously having Tribi is going to be very much preferred. You know, Sunday works. You just have to use whatever you do have. I do have a team building guide already that you can also check out if you want more info. And yep, that is the full Castorice guide. I hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did, drop a like, would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content and guides. That's all I wanted to say. Peace out.